like
Yeah.
tangible like this.
So that's the.
Time's up.
Ready, begin.
Now, are you setting a new timer for how long I have?
Do we have, that is a good question. Do we have a limit on how long these presentations are?
I'm not going to micromanage that. Please be respectful of our time.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
I want to be thorough, but also as brief as possible. So thank you to the council for hearing budget requests today on behalf of 4 divisions. While you normally refer to us as the Hutch Chamber, I want to make sure that we draw a distinction that the budgets that we're requesting today are for 4 independent divisions that are managed at the Hutch Chamber, but have their own bank accounts, and we don't commingle these funds. So they are 4 distinct requests on behalf of Greater Hutch, Growth Inc., Market Hutch, and Downtown Hutch. To kind of break down the way that we support these various entities, I'll start with the first one, which is Greater Hutch, which is the Economic Development Partnership that we have had for a very long time with the city and county, and as well as South Hutchinson. And so the total funding for Greater Hutch comes from those variety of entities, but what we're asking of you today for that division is $100,000, which you can see then is matched by a significant amount of private fundraising that we do under the campaign, most recent campaign, which was Reno Rising, that launched in 2022. And then we also have requested support from Reno County for $50,000, and we'll be Monday night requesting support from South Hutchinson for $10,000 to make up the total budget there. So your funding of that division is significant because it helps us achieve a lot of the marketing and promotion that we do on the economic development front. I want to be sure to draw the distinction that staffing for Greater Hutch does come from the private fundraising we do, and so we drive every dollar that you invest in this division into marketing of this area. Alongside Greater Hutch, kind of a sister organization to it, is Growth Inc. And Growth Inc. does not have staffing. Mostly Growth Inc. has been utilized to work on site development. And so most recently, it's the division that has requested grant funding from the state as well as private donors to allow us to work on starting to develop a large industrial site for Reno County in this area. We think that's going to be a large job driver in the future. And I just want to point out that our ability to raise private funds and other grant dollars for that division really takes the burden of land development off of the city, which historically, the city owns an existing industrial park in Hutchinson that has a few acres left. And that was purely done with city dollars. So Growth Inc. being able to go out and leverage other dollars really does save the city money. So the $20,000 that we request each year kind of helps us with grant administration and just some of the other support costs related to when we have to justify matching dollars, for example, or one of the programs we have right now is a spec building incentive fund that helps write down some of the interest while a spec building is being constructed. Just to take that burden off of the developers for taking some of the risk of building speculatively. So that's one example. Downtown Hutch, we'll get into the makeup of that. You've been hearing a lot about the work of Downtown Hutch recently in the master plan. The Downtown Hutch division, the dollars that you invest, $100,000 this last year, was the first year that we fully funded and that you fully funded a full-time staff position for Downtown Hutch, and the balance of the funding then also goes into the promotion and marketing that we do as a Kansas Main Street community. It allows us to deliver a lot of training to our business community from Kansas Main Street, and as a Kansas Main Street designated community, we do have to demonstrate that we have a full-time staffing person there, and so this was the first year that we were able to fully staff Downtown Hutch. And then lastly, the last division is Market Hutch. Market Hutch also does not have any staffing. 100% of the dollars you invest in Market Hutch goes into currently the Share the Love promotion and a contract with Bowercom, and then some of the matching dollars for co-op advertising that we do, and I'll show you some examples of that. So some of the staff here today from Greater Hutch and Downtown Hutch. Lauren Storm is here as our Greater Hutch Business Retention and Expansion and Workforce Program Manager. And then just about 3 weeks ago, we brought on a replacement for Lacey Jansen's position. So Katie Fallon is our new Economic Development Project Manager, and we're happy to have Katie back. She worked for us previously and left for a bit and now is back working on projects. Sarah Diamond couldn't be here today, but she is our downtown Hutch manager, and you know Sarah well. And then Seth Farley, we have recently hired on the chamber side, but he's doing a bit of marketing analysis for us on our websites and marketing promotion. And so his position is a shared position between Greater Hutch and the chamber in marketing and membership services. So just a deep dive into what the work of Greater Hutch that's funded by Reno Rising. These 4 strategic priorities were established and are what you would see common core tenets of any good economic development strategy, working on business retention and expansion, business recruitment, community development, and capacity building, which encompasses a lot of things, and then workforce development, which has really risen to the top in importance because every business out there is clamoring for a limited workforce pool. Reno Rising, we've talked about it before. These were the goals established by Reno Rising, and they are part of what make up our current 2024 strategic plan. We've really taken a lot of time and attention specifically around site development in this last year. So when I saw you at this time last year, we were barely on the cusp of starting a large site development. We've come a long way with that and have a K96 steering committee working toward that goal. But also, we were awarded last year with base grant dollars to help. So that's part of what we do is grant writing to leverage other state and federal programs to bring those dollars to bear. We received a $2 million base grant, and that's helping us towards that development, as well as a $2 million child care accelerator grant. That is new and different than the ARPA dollars you're investing in child care. So we're taking on the grant administration for the child care accelerator and some workforce dollars, and that is helping seed about 8 projects across Reno County as a result of that. And we don't charge for any of that grant administration. It's just being done kind of under the shell of Growth Inc. So on the project front, both BRE projects and recruitment, you can kind of see we're halfway through 2024, and I think this year's going to outpace last year when it comes to RFPs, getting us in front of large projects, as well as supporting BRE projects. And I won't go into those, but you often see us approach you with requests for things like IRBs, and the state sees our requests for a lot of the state programs that we help local companies leverage. Lauren goes out on BRE visits. Sometimes there's a project, sometimes it's simply a fact-finding mission so that they know that we're there to support them along the way. And oftentimes it's a conversation about workforce, which is why you're going to see workforce rise to the top. I don't want to go too deep into recruitment projects, but our pipeline is very full, and I'm glad to see this year we've had some aviation projects too, which has given us a chance to really look at how do we partner with the city and look at leveraging the asset we have there at the airport. Some of our workforce community initiatives, besides doing a business conditions survey and then going out one-on-one and meeting with companies, is then matching them up with programs. And so Lauren does a great job of matching them up with apprenticeship programs, on-the-job training dollars from Workforce One, conducting backstage pass visits. We're doing one of those this week for Heartland Credit Union, and we often do those for many of our members who are recruiting people to come to our community that want to take a little bit of a deep dive into, tell us about the community, not just from the employer perspective. And we get really involved in doing those one-on-one, taking them around the community. We also have a job portal that jobs can be posted on. We contribute some of the dollars that you invest in us in other seed programs in the community. And one of those is the Boys and Girls Club and their Epic Skills program, which now they're launching into a program called Up Next. And so about $10,000 a year of your dollars goes directly into their program. We also, from time to time, unfortunately, have to support workers who are facing job loss. So when a company closes, we often do on-site job interviews at our office, job fairs and that kind of thing. And then a program that you've heard quite a lot about is Career Quest. We're going to give you a copy of our annual report, and much of this data about how many people are served through Career Quest each year is in that report. But over 650 students every year are learning about careers across the community. Last fall, we partnered with our education partners doing education days. We did a partnership with Startup Hutch to promote manufacturing jobs at the Manufacturing Expo, which was held on the fairgrounds. This spring, we've held healthcare days, agribusiness days, public service days, and also on-site business tours. So sixth graders in Reno County are learning directly about jobs all across our county. Lauren has also been sharing this across the state. It's really getting statewide attention because not every community has such a robust workforce program in their economic development program. So she's presented it at career and tech ed conferences as well as leadership summits across the state. We culminate Career Quest with a writing competition, so kids are reflecting on what they've learned. And so in May, we awarded an overall winner and then several school-based winners. And I think it's just really important to hear it straight from kids. Matt Smith at Morgan said, "These field trips changed my opinion about Reno County, and it made me a lot more interested in the jobs it has." And if we can help every sixth grader have a vision for what they're going to do for their future, and if they can see their future here, I feel like our job is complete. We want to make sure that the people who we're educating in our community know we have good jobs for them. We also want to celebrate those that are investing in their career and tech ed pathway. And so every May we do a signing day, and you guys are a part of that. This year, about 86 students committed to 13 career pathways, and most of those pathways lead straight into jobs right here in Reno County. I mentioned the work of Growth Inc., and we couldn't do that without raising private and grant dollars. And so in order to put together a site that you all have annexed into the city of Hutchinson in December, we couldn't have done that without a donation from the Kimball family. As I said, Reno County ARPA dollars of $1.2 million, as well as the state-based grant. But also our Growth Inc. reserves are helping then make sure that we have the tools in place when we have to commit to matching dollars for some of those grants. Our next steps really is to continue the work of the steering committee this year, solving some of the issues that we have around how do we fund water and sewer. That's not what today's funding request is about, but last year, in cooperation with one of the prospects we were courting, we could really see a path forward that we're not going to put those lines in the ground until we have a prospect, but when we do, we want the prospect to have buy-in. And so I want to make sure that's clear, that we don't want to put that simply on the back of the city and taxpayers. We want to do it wisely in partnership with business. We've also been having conversations with our electric utility partners about how do we enhance the service capacity there. We've had some very fruitful meetings on that topic. And then we're going to continue to do grant writing to help us figure out the other infrastructure that will be required, such as road improvements. I also mentioned the spec building interest subsidy. So Salt City Investments has built the current spec building. It is getting a great deal of attention from prospects, but it isn't full yet. And so while there are interest payments being made, we are in an agreement to subsidize up to $100,000 from Growth Inc. reserves. So all of those dollars that we have banked through the years are helping make sure that we have good product to bring to market there. We also are doing a lot in marketing, and we're kind of changing up our strategy this year to work on a couple of new things. We did do a printed report for you and our investors that Katie passed out. We also maintain several websites and real estate databases that get our product out to the market. Some of those are Zoom Prospector and a product called Lois, Location One Information System. But we are also working on our own website. We have a quote out right now for working later this year on a redesign. And I think that we will have to dig deep into also next year's budget to work on some of those marketing initiatives. We also have Seth working on some new industrial park marketing, and including some drone photography and things that are going to help us kind of take our marketing to a new level. And then we have some subscriptions we belong to or other places that we place advertising about our area. And then we also go out to market with several other partners across the state and the region. So Team Kansas is probably our most strategic marketing partner. We invest your dollars directly into Team Kansas, into some regional marketing we do with the Greater Wichita Partnership. And then this year, we're also working with Site Location Partnership, where we schedule one-on-one virtual meetings with site selectors across the country. And so we'll be doing 8 of those meetings this July and August. Some other things in community capacity building, which can be a lot of things that make up our quality of life, but they all underpin our success. Are working on childcare, working in partnership with you on housing, working on the Downtown Hutch Master Plan that just reinvigorates the core of our community, and then also working in outreach across Reno County with several of the outlying communities, from the master planning to site certification to supporting industrial growth in our partner communities. There are numbers in the annual report that reflect back on last year. Since we're mid-year, I haven't fully delivered those for you, but you will see that at the end of every year. We have an economic outlook conference where we dive into those. Now I'm going to move into downtown Hutch, give you kind of an overview of our Kansas Main Street structure, and then some of the promotions and marketing and event support that we do. So as a Kansas Main Street community, we have to have 4 distinct committees that help govern our downtown Hutch revitalization partnership. And the state comes in and we do an annual report each year for them about the work of these 4 committees. But much of the work this year has really been around the downtown Hutch master plan, guiding that process, doing a bit of grant writing for upper floor living, and also bringing in training from the state level and national level for our business partners so that they can learn more about appropriate historic design, for example, in the historic district. We also manage a large portfolio of loans through what's called Incentives Without Walls. And when the city was managing downtown Hutch, you all managed this program. We took it over in the administration of it in 2021 and have since then added more loans to that portfolio, and it simply replenishes itself. We have about 18 active loans currently in some stage of repayment. Usually we like to keep those in repayment and not in default, but sometimes we get into the business of collections because businesses have struggles from time to time. But it is a great program that we leverage with other lenders in the community to make sure we're driving activity in downtown. Sarah also works with our promotion committee on a lot of promotions and marketing, and there are 2 distinct websites that we maintain. One of those is our downtownhutch.com website. It is co-located with the chamber site, and it pulls in information for visitors looking for information about shopping, dining, attraction, and events. So it's a great place kind of at your fingertips. If you're a visitor looking for what to do, you'll find it here. We also then, for our internal local audience, have the Downtown Hutch Master Plan site that is including all of that information about the work we're doing around the master plan. It's really not for an external audience, so I kind of view it as our local community site for that information. We also, of course, are on social media with Downtown Hutch content, and so we have a contract that we outsource that to Selwyn currently. We also provide a lot of matching funds for a variety of cooperative marketing initiatives, and a lot of that's getting us on local television networks, billboards, radio, print media, etc. And then Sarah is often doing, local media interviews on Kansas Proud and Ad Astra. So if you hear us on KWCH a lot, it's because we're leveraging your dollars to make sure Hutchinson is present there, as well as then a lot of variety of holiday and seasonal promotions, and then the printing and the changing of seasonal corner signage. I can't emphasize enough that we're trying to keep those changed regularly. Those fixtures are getting pretty dated, and I think there will be a day that we'll be asking for some partnership with the city on getting those corner sign fixtures changed. But for now, we've been band-aiding them along, and each time we do a corner signage printing, it's about $600, and we try to change those out about 6 times a year. So you'll see us promoting a lot of different events. Many of these were new in the last few years. Doing the Easter egg hunt in the spring, Smallville Downtown Kryptonite Hunt was new in the last couple of years. Chalk the Town is coming up this week in partnership with Third Thursday. The Homecoming Parade in the fall in partnership with the local school district. Shop and Treat on Main in the fall, and then the Light Up Hutch Christmas Parade and Festival, which we're so glad to partner with the city on. Really the success of making that an evening parade. I think it really took off last year, and we're excited to see where it goes. Moving on to the Market Hutch division, this work, as I said, while Leanne Cox with Visit Hutch helps manage our Market Hutch committee, it does have a committee that's been around for about 40 years overseeing the work of Market Hutch and your investment in it. It's really managed day to day by Bowercom. We outsource this to the experts in marketing, and they then put together a calendar of the ways that we are doing multi-channel marketing. So anything from paid social, streaming on TV and radio, to spots on Google and Spotify, and then a huge email marketing blitz that has ensued over the last couple of years. And so that email database has grown to about 5,700 subscribers. We've had 6,300 of those that have signed up directly, and then others come from other sources that they're sourcing those from. And over the course of the Share the Love campaign, they've done 19 email campaigns to date, and you can see the success there of about 356,000 emails sent. We have a really great open rate and a lot of unique click-throughs. We're also out there in a variety of platforms of social media, developing reels on TikTok, tile and carousel ads showing up on Facebook, and then a complete summer family fun guide. So everything you want to know about Hutch in the area is right there. And then we measure the results. And so you can see the impressions we're getting on Facebook and TikTok. Click-throughs are really strong. And then the spring commercial campaign that they did, we did some Google paid promotion and Spotify streaming. So if you are not a paid subscriber to Spotify, you'll still see those streaming ads, and you can see just lots of activity there. And then I'd like to see where our reach is going with some of these campaigns. The Jam Loop that we did streaming on TV, you can see about 36% of the impressions received there are the Wichita market. And then they go out from there to Manhattan, Salina, and across the state. But it's really good to see the impressions there. 201,000 impressions delivered in that campaign, and a really strong video open rate. So we have, we work with Bowercom on strategy throughout the year. This is just a sample of that strategy. And for the foreseeable future, I think we're going to continue the Share the Love campaign. Love seems to be the theme because, as you know, the state rolled out their Love Kansas campaign, and we thought, all right, well, we already have a built-in campaign mechanism that fits the bill. But we have assembled, Lauren and Storm and Holly Liker are leading our local Love Kansas committee, and some of you are serving on that committee. Some of you went to Manhattan for the kickoff event a couple of weeks ago. And so the what's next is that we're going to have an event in cooperation with Third Thursday where we have a postcard writing campaign of our own. And so this was the postcard that our team put together just last week that features various things across Hutchinson and Reno County that people at Third Thursday can actually do their own letter writing campaign to invite people to come right back to the heartland here in Reno County. So that's just a sampling of the things we're doing. This is just a recap of our budget request. So across those 4 divisions, like I said, our total request for the city is level funding this year of $320,000 that then is distributed across those 4 divisions. And we couldn't do it without, working together to grow Reno County is definitely a team sport. We couldn't do it without you, without the county, without our other city partners, and without the private dollars from our Reno Rising campaign. So we just appreciate every dollar that we can pull together to work together to grow the county.
What is your income from membership?
Our income from membership is about $400,000 a year, and that is not commingled with any of these dollars. So it does help us cover a lot of the overhead of the building we own, the taxes we own on the building, putting on events throughout the year. But our membership revenue is roughly $400,000. We have 760 members in our chamber. And of those, about 85 are the investors in Reno Rising.
On the last slide that you just showed, it says note chamber offsets approximately $25,000 per year. Can you define overhead support?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of that would be the IT contract. We outsource IT to Reach because we want to make sure that we are protecting the data that goes in and out of the chamber. And so that contact with Reach is a per seat license. We don't bill that to the city, but every seat and so Sarah's seat on our system has a Microsoft 365 subscription, and it also has a subscription to Reach. And of course, there's equipment and office support for Sarah officing at the chamber. Then just, some of the overhead of the chamber, for example, has a light bill, a gas bill, all the things that one would have. We don't bill any of that overhead to downtown Hutch. But I did ask our accountant to quantify, if we did, what would the value of that be? And so some of those items are what are made up of that $25,000.
Thank you.
As a nonprofit, we actually own our building, but we are not tax exempt. So we actually pay property tax to Reno County on our building, and we bear the cost of all of the operating of it. So if I were to allocate it across each of the divisions, in that case, downtown would be about $25,000.
Any other questions?
This was the first year we have done a printed report in a while, I guess since pre-COVID. So I would just say if you read pages 16 through kind of the back of the book, it makes up a great report on all the things that we partner with you on. Obviously, the first half of this report are about chamber events, but really the meat of what we do related to the economic development partnership with the city, you can find on pages 16 through 27.
I have a question. You said that this is a level fund request from last year. What has the growth in your requests been over the past, or just any historical data of 5-10 years?
Sure. I didn't put it in the presentation, but I do have a handout that I could share with you that will help. So going back to, I just start with 2017 because it's the year that I came here. Total funding from the city in 2017 was $200,000. And it was at that level through 2019. In 2019 was the year that we began the partnership with the city. When the city previously managed Downtown Hutch Revitalization Partnership, you staffed it. Jim Seitnader was the staff person. You had your own operating budget and promotion budget. And the board of DHRP and the city council agreed that it would be appropriate to outsource that work. The chamber willingly took on the work because it aligns with what we believe in as a community. It aligns with our membership base. Many of the downtown businesses are chamber members. But it did come with a transfer of what was remaining in the city checking account at the time, which was a small amount of dollars in 2019. In 2020 and 2021, we did not ask for other funding from the city to help with staffing. We were simply trying to kind of build up downtown and handle it with existing staffing at the chamber. At some point, we realized that's not practical. And so in 2021, when we made the budget request for 22, you can see we were then at $210,000 of other economic development funding across those other 3 divisions you supported. But we asked for $20,000 of funding to simply help us with promotion. So in 22, your total city investment was $230,000. In 23, when I came in this time of year to ask for funding, we asked for funding for part-time, actually for full-time downtown staffing, as well as some promotion dollars, in addition to the other work we were doing. It was also the time when the Downtown Master Plan technical group that was assembled wanted to go forth with a master plan. So in that year, we asked for 2 things. We asked for full-time staffing and promotion. We also asked for support for the half of the Olson study. And you willingly funded half of the Olson study, and we're really proud of that work, and we're excited about where that's guiding us. But we knew it was a big ask. And so at that time in 23, what was actually awarded for staffing and promotion was $50,000. And then the $100,000 you put into the study, making your total investment that year $370,000. Last year, of course, the master plan funding was wrapping up, but the staffing need existed. So in 24, we asked for full-time staffing. And so that's where we were at starting January 1 of 24. You're funding a full-time staffing position with fully loaded benefits and retirement and all that comes with a full-time salaried staff person, plus promotion for a total of $100,000 in downtown Hutch, coupled with the other funding of $220,000 for Greater Hutch, Market Hutch, and growth. So a total of $320,000 this year, and that's exactly what we're asking for next year. At some point, it's going to get tougher to be able to continue to provide employee benefits if we continue with level funding, just with the realities of merit increases and benefit costs. But for now, we're trying to continue to just manage that with level funding and then cover the offset with chamber resources.
You do know on page 26, chalk to downtown, whatever, you do know a lady got in trouble for that.
Oh, I didn't know that, Steve.
She didn't get in trouble. She rode on some sidewalks and got out.
Yeah.
Actually,
She got some accolades. So she certainly brought a lot of attention to Hutch, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
No, it's been great partnering on that, and I'm excited to see what happens this Thursday. We'll see if we get in trouble.
I'm not sure if this would be the appropriate time to have a discussion about the future of, what the downtown piece of this looks like. Do we pull that in under the city? What would that look like to you? It seems as if we're funding that. And I just think about these things daily and wonder if that's a role that the chamber should do anyway as part of being a chamber. Or I don't know. I mean, I don't want to bring up the elephant in the room, but we've talked a lot, just internally about how things are structured and who does what, and if we're getting the most efficiencies out of how things are structured. Do you have any thoughts to that?
I could share an opinion. I think that, as I said, in 2019, we willingly took on some of the work of downtown without taking on the IWW grant administrate or loan administration. I think that we run that program as efficiently as possible. And so I don't know that if there's any way anyone else could run it any more efficiently than what we're doing.
And for clarification, we
historically-
ask you to do that.
Sure, yes.
We're like, here it is.
And so I don't want it to be a situation that any of us lose dollars as a result of an investment in something that really should be something we're proud to invest in. We're proud to do the work of downtown. We're proud to promote Hutchinson's downtown. But also just at the time when it felt like the city was kind of stepping away from investing as a Kansas Main Street community, and even the state had disinvested for many years in Main Street organizations, it felt like it was time that someone gave appropriate attention to it. And so if the city was defunding it in 2019, who else was going to do the work if the chamber didn't step in? To stay in compliance as a Kansas Main Street community, you have to fund it. You have to fund a full-time position. It's one of the caveats of being a Main Street community. But does that need to live at the chamber, or could it live at the city again? I'm kind of agnostic on that. I mean, I think we will partner and be in the work together, whether Sarah's position lives at the chamber or whether it lives at the city. We will support you in that work, but we can't do that work for free, and you wouldn't expect anyone to do it for free for a long period of time. So it's kind of if the city is back at a place where you would wish to fully staff downtown again and convene that work, I'm happy if we're at a strong place across our economic development spectrum of programs that could happen. That is not where the city was in 2019. So if the city is back at that place, that's wonderful, because it means that we're all fully bought in again to downtown. I don't want Sarah to feel like a whiplash of, well, I was a part-time coordinator and I've stepped into a downtown manager role just January 1 of this year, and all of a sudden you're going to tell me I'm going to work for who now, or who's employing me tomorrow. I don't want it to feel like that as someone who employs a team of really great people. But if that would be the desire of the city to bring that position back in-house and you be able to provide her a salary and benefits equitable to what she's at now, I'm perfectly open to that discussion, Greg.
It seems like if you compare and contrast the two people who have held the downtown management role, whatever the title may be, they brought very different things to the position. And I know Sarah's education, experience, and background and her expertise is very different than what Jim's technical mind brought to the position. And I think moving forward, it's hard to say what's the right mix of that, because it feels like if we're going to grow downtown, it's going to require a lot of work with Matt and with Dave and with council and with management to work on updating and changing zoning, to work on the marketing piece, to work on just all of the things that are going to come into it. And so with that position being like the thing that changed and increased your ask, it's hard to say, is it more valuable in the city? Are we going to get more bang for our buck in the city where we can directly collaborate, or is it best to be at the chamber? So that's what I'm really struggling with. I guess that's all that I have about it.
From a marketing perspective, it would be good to know what direction the city wants to go, because right now the Downtown Hutch website is commingled with the pillars of a website contract that we have with Golden Shovel as our hosting entity, and they do our tech support. But on the marketing side, we're about to embark on rebuilding our websites. And so if our website remains with downtown Hutch as a component of it, it would be better to know that now while we're working on our scope with our new website developer than waiting till the end of the year and then switching gears. So downtown Hutch needs to have a website regardless of if the position lives at the city. So, but it would be good to know what direction you guys are going, because we're actively working on getting the scope of that contract nailed down with a marketing provider. So the sooner the better,
That's
really.
fair.
As well as social media. We're in a social media contract where we outsource the social media on a monthly basis. It is a month-to-month contract at this point, but then all of those things probably would come back over to City Hall if that were the direction you want to go.
One more quick question. What grants are you writing on behalf of downtown?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, there was actually a upper floor living, and that one we wrote on behalf of the Leon Hotel. And then there was also a Reimagined Spaces grant. That one we wrote, but it was awarded to Hutch Rec for a corridor that they're going to work on with the Neon Alley. This year, one of the grants that came out from the state was also a upper floor living of sorts. It was called the Rooms Grant. It was submitted in May. It was a great collaboration that would have had matching dollars from Startup Hutch as well as the Community Foundation. We weren't one of the 5 communities selected to get the Rooms Grant, but it gives us the baseline to be ready for the next one. So those are some examples. There aren't as many grants coming out of Kansas Main Street as one would like, but as they come along, we're applying for each and every one.
And is eligibility for those grants dependent upon membership and compliance with all of their?
Being a Kansas Main Street community. If it's coming out of the Kansas Main Street program, yes.
And that doesn't have to live in the chamber either. We can be a Main Street community.
Correct. You were a Main Street community starting in 1995 with that position fully staffed here at the city.
Gotcha.
I think our collaboration with the city has come far, as you have staffed and had new people come on board that are part of the technical committee driving the master plan work. Sarah's collaborating with your team, I feel like, very well. So if it continues to be this collaboration and you outsource the staffing of it and promotion activities to the chamber, we're happy. And if you decide you want to employ Sarah in that role here at the city, equally as happy to be a partner.
Okay. We will discuss that further with staff, I suppose. Any comments, questions, Steve or John, Scott?
No.
All right,
Okay,
thank you very
thank you.
much.
All right. Who's next?
I can drive.
You can drive, is that what you said?
Yeah, I can drive.
Okay, so Hutch Rec, Tony Finley, and then also with me is Denise Gilliland, our neighborhood development manager. In past years, I've had the opportunity to follow the chamber's presentation, so I know to keep mine brief. So we will.
That's false. You presented last time and took our time.
So just the Hutchinson Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. This program came about back in late 2013, 2014, as an effort for Hutch Rec, as we looked at deploying a way to provide public recreation throughout the community and what was missing. We identified that there didn't seem to be a lot of pride within the individual neighborhoods of our community. There was no identity. The health statistics spoke for themselves. And so we put together this Healthy Neighborhood Initiative that prioritized housing, the physical environment, quality of life offerings, civic engagement, leadership, and safety. And at the beginning, that was a partnership with a lot of collaborators in the community, the Hutchinson Community Foundation, of course, the Chamber was involved early on, and the city of Hutch, as well as some private donors to get the program going. As those programs evolved, it has been shared between the city and Hutch Rec. That's a share of funding for this program between those two entities. You can see there the current neighborhoods that we're working in. We have a lot of successes up there, and we also have a lot of challenges as different neighborhoods, even though geographically they're not too far apart, they definitely function different depending on the culture and environment within those neighborhoods. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Denise. She will go through what we're currently working on and what we have planned, and then definitely be available for questions if you have any. Denise?
So my position began in June of last year. So I've been in this role for right at a year now. And what we did over the last year as far as neighborhood advocacy currently is the lighting along B Street. Residents did a walking tour with Mary Grace and Greg. They identified some areas where lighting was a challenge. I had been with Hutchinson for about a week before I heard about the lighting on B Street. So met with Greg early on, and the neighborhood work moves slow. And that's one thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is that it took 40 years to get where we're at now. It's going to take time to revitalize these neighborhoods and bring them back up to where we all want to see them. Also, we're working with residents and Justin with Grace Harbor Park. They've had a great showing the last couple of months, and really excited about the park and what Justin has put together for them. We've also done some advocacy around Farmington Park completion. So Farmington Park was redone a few years ago, and there was just some details that needed to be completed, and Mary Grace and Justin were great about getting that done for this season, and then as well as the Bernard White Park completion. And Greg helped us get a little bit of the things done there that residents were wanting completed. So that is what Adam and his work has been doing, and the advocacy that residents have been doing. Behind the scenes, some of the things that I've been working on is the Civic Engagement Academy. We hope to launch that in the fall of 2024. Our goal with that is to help residents understand processes for city operations. We want to help create ambassadors for the city, so we can help educate residents, and other residents can help educate residents. And as a result of this, we want to create more community pride. Dave has been at the table from day one, as we've talked about what a Civic Engagement Academy can look like and how that looks to honor the city and the city staff, as well as getting information out in a way that residents can understand. So a big win for the neighborhood work was the block by block investment program. Housing Commission granted us $25,000 for 2024. And what the block by block investment program does is it encourages clusters of residents to make curb appeal improvements to their properties, and they get half of their money back, up to $1,500. So for 2024, we awarded 19 properties with investments that will net, with investments back into the properties that will net over $60,000. And that was just a $20,000 investment from ARPA funds. Round 2 will be awarded in 2025. So I'm looking forward to give you guys a full report in the fall of next year to tell you how many properties were touched by this program, how many dollars were invested back into the city and homeowners' properties. But there is an example of just one of the properties that put on a new porch with the reimbursement that they have. So Housing Commission will get a full report in October. So next up for the neighborhood work is we really want to return to a true collaboration with the city. And what that means is working closely with Dave and his team to implement what a collaborative process can look like that honors the city, Hutch Rec, and most importantly, residents. And that will take time to establish, but I'm hopeful. I think the right people are at the table. And we also are working on a tenants association. We want both landlords and renters to understand what their rights and responsibilities are. The reason that this kind of fell into the neighborhood work is when we did our annual meetings this year, I presented some housing data, and one of the data points was rental property tax assessments are approximately 20 to 25% lower than owner occupied tax assessments. That opened up an entire conversation about how some of our residents are treated that are renters, and that renters don't always understand what their rights are, but they also don't understand what their responsibilities are. So the Community Foundation approved a grant to help us do that work over the next 2 years. Another thing coming up, and this will be a 2-year project, are neighborhood health documents. So to do this work long term, we need to have good data. So that is one thing that I am working on, is so in the future we can look at our neighborhood health documents and see, you know, how many building permits were made for our different neighborhoods. Were there any new builds, especially south of 11th Street? And we want to have that data to be able to continue to do this work long term and to know when we need to pivot. Also big on what's next for the last part of this year is focus on the areas that are lower in engagement and re-energize them through Project Park. So this would be the McCandless area, which we've struggled with engaging from day one. This will be the Midtown area and Creekside. And what we want to do is we want to look at different ways we can engage residents in ways that they've never been engaged before. So we're looking at doing that through a series of pop-up parks in each of the neighborhoods utilizing public spaces. So that is kind of what we've been working on. Our presentation was a little shorter, but I am open for any questions.
Thanks, Denise. I do want to note on the returning to the collaboration, where that's coming from is when this program was first being implemented, and then through the first 4 years, we had standing meetings between Hutch Rec staff and city staff. At the beginning, the first couple of years, it was monthly, and then we went to quarterly. But there was always direct communication on what the program is, what the priorities were. Unfortunately, about 2019-ish, that stopped happening. There were some staffing changes at the city. There's been some turnover there, and so we really haven't been able to get back to that. And so that would be a priority for us, is to have that regular engagement to make sure that we're both agencies are working towards the same things. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Blank stares all around the room.
So Angela has the funding request, I believe is right at $84,000. That is direct expenses. Primarily that is the salary of the 2 positions. We do not, similar to Deborah, we do not charge overhead in the sense of office space or my time, other staff times. Obviously with a division of 2, whenever we deploy events, our other Hutch Rec divisions are part of that, and those costs don't get submitted as well. So there is some significant overhead or collaboration there within Hutch Rec.
And the request for last year was?
About the same, yeah, right at, it was 80, I think it was right at 80, if I remember right.
It's 80 and now it's 83,200.
83,200, that is primarily personnel increases as far as cost of living raises is what that 3,000 is.
Do you
Can-
feel,
oh.
sorry, go ahead.
Can you clarify, you just said that staffing was not a pass-through on this, but then you said that the difference from 80 to 83,200
No,
was,
Sorry if I misspoke. The two staff members, that city funding helps fund those two positions.
okay,
What I was talking about is the work that it takes above that. So my time, marketing division's time,
okay,
event division's time, those hours are not part of this.
Okay.
HUTCHREC just, does that as part of it.
okay, thank you.
My question was on the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative. Have you seen you talked like 40 years, it's taken 40 years to get, are you seeing more progressing faster with programs we're working on now?
I think what we're going to see is now that the city is fully staffed and we're all on the same page, as that we're going to see faster movement. There have been improvements in each of the neighborhoods. Southwest Bricktown is a great example of that. You drive along A Street and it looks completely different than it did 10 years ago. The Founders neighborhood, we have some really great things going on there, but each of the neighborhoods will move at a different speed based on the leadership that's within the neighborhood, and the capacity of each of the neighborhoods. But we are seeing things change. It's just slow. It's just slow work.
Now, the rec has its own mill levy, don't you? Right?
Correct.
What's their mill, what's your mill levy?
3.613, I think.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that.
Okay,
3 point something.
all right.
Tony, in your intro, you mentioned that you said the health statistics speak for themselves, and then you're telling us that progress is really hard. So are you speaking of health in the health term of like health data, not like neighborhood healthy?
Correct. So, healthy individuals make healthy neighborhoods make healthy communities, right? That concept. And so when you look at the health statistics that the Reno County Health Department does and the hospitals do about the health of our residents, 10 years ago when we started this, what was not good. We ranked, Reno County ranked in the bottom of basically every statistic, right? And so when you look at what you can do from a public infrastructure standpoint to encourage those healthier behaviors, parks, sidewalks, trails, events, activities, engagement, there's a lot about being prideful within your neighborhood, just creates that, it speaks to the mental health. And so the program's really designed to create a sense of pride within each of the neighborhoods within our community. So people will want to invest there, they'll want to stay there, their kids will want to come back to there. And as Denise was referring to, and still a lot of challenges, I would argue it's probably been over 40 years that these neighborhoods have gotten to the condition that they're in. And so it's going to take a lot of time. And with the division of two, it's really going to take a lot of time. But we do want to note that the program was always designed just to have 2 employees. The collaboration, not only within HUTCHREC, within the other divisions, but with also community partners, would make sure that that was moving forward that way. So.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, I have a question about Grace Arbor Park and the DCI park projects. So it seems like right now there's a lot of momentum building. What is the end goal? And is part of that going to include asking the city to take those on as our own parks?
So definitely Grace Arbor. I mean, that's just been us representing the neighborhood and the fact that there's no park in that immediate area. Again, going back to the statistics of what makes a healthy neighborhood. DCI Park is, in Project Park specifically with that, is a grant through the Kansas Arts Commission.
Okay.
And yeah, there's no intent of changes to, or ask for the city on that particular park. If there are any improvements made, that would be done privately by DCI or through other funding mechanisms if they were to change that park. As we move forward with Project Park and we demonstrate how you can have these open spaces and public gathering spaces within your neighborhood, that would be a collaboration, just like we've done with Grace Arbor, where we take the resources of HUTCHREC and engage the neighborhood, layer that on with statistics as far as, how far away is the closest park, are there trails, are there adequate sidewalks, and then we work with the city to figure out how to solve those problems.
All right. Who do we have next?
That is it.
Is it?
Startup Hutch did theirs.
Okay, and what do you have for us?
What I wanted to go over was the CIP.
I have an extra one if anyone needs it.
Is it the bigger version?
These are
Nice, wasn't
different.
it?
No.
Oh, these definitely the same.
They're
have
different.
Oh, they are?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
go
I tried to
over it.
compare. They looked the same,
Oh,
so
there's some differences.
If you squint, you can tell.
I tried that too.
Yeah, I can, it's very fine, you can tell.
Oh, okay. There's an extra line on one of them.
I've outlined all the changes, so we'll get there. So since we decided to keep the mill levy the same, I just wanted to touch on that. It raised the projected ending balance from $759 to $869. Here was a recap of funding requests. So the CIP that I wanted to go over, there's been some changes and some developments that have come up since we discussed the CIP. So the LEC found out that their budgeted project for their elevator this year was supposed to cover both elevators. There's been some changes in guidelines and requirements for those elevators, so they're gonna need another $125,000 next year to fix the second elevator, which is really needed to comply with ADA and just serve employees and everything. We've increased sidewalks 150,000. And then we have found out that Woody C Avenue C Bridge needs $1 million to rehab the median and make other improvements, or we would have new Avenue C, which needs some improvements, and then new on Woody C. So we have added that into the budget for 25. And to accommodate that, the Halstead Street phases have been pushed back a year. But the main reason there's two different versions here is because I have the first version, which includes demoing the atrium, and we have a rough estimate of $1,550,000. So to accommodate that being added into the CIP, I would propose bonding part of it and then using about $400,000 of interest that's in the CIP that has been saved up for emergencies. But we would use that to help offset the costs. We would delay the fire station alerting of $250,000 to 2026, and that's when it was originally requested. And then we would delay the turf phases by 1 year for each of the phases. So that is the first option that's in your packet. The second option that's in your packet would be if we did not have to demo the atrium, if someone bought it, if the owner dealt with it himself, or any other type of scenario that might play out where we don't have to demo that. And so if we don't, then the changes above would be in play, plus we wouldn't have to delay the fire station or delay the turf.
And it should be noted that it's demo plus abatement. So that would be factoring in the cost for the abatement of asbestos. So.
And the hearing is on the August 20th meeting.
Correct.
No, it's on September 3rd.
No, I'm talking about the hearing for the atrium.
Oh,
which would be
okay.
before the
Sorry,
September
sorry.
3rd
Yeah,
meeting.
it's August 20th.
So those are kind of the options that are in play. I mean, we might know more before September 3rd, and then we could finalize the different options.
Since you're in the room, maybe you can answer this. What happened with Avenue C Bridge, a surprise $1 million repair that?
We're, I'm not sure.
So,
Right.
can I?
Yes.
It's a couple of things, in talking to engineering, there was discussions apparently prior, before, when they were working out Woody Seat Phase 1 and Phase 2 into the plan. Because when they did an assessment of all the bridges in the community, that bridge structurally didn't raise to the level of needing to be repaired, so ergo, they're doing the other bridge repairs. But the work that needs to be done, to be quite honestly, this is me, my opinion is, you don't do all that work on that bridge and leave the median for the center of the Woody Seat Bridge and some of the structural things on the edges and the center. That's what needs to be addressed, not the structure of the bridge itself. So that's what that money would be used for.
I'm not following. So
Yeah,
we're getting rid of the median.
Yes, that's crumbling, it's falling apart.
It's $1 million on
Uh,
top of the other charge.
that's my question.
No, there's some structural repairs. What we saw in some of the imagery is underneath.
And so unfortunately it was initially an oversight that was caught. But what it would need to have is a new deck as well. So that there are some at least structural deficiencies with the deck. So in talking with Brian and engineering, that would be the recommendation to replace the deck.
The challenge, to be quite honestly, it's what I'm asking Deborah for, is she's getting me the number to the K&O rail because the rail's under there, and that's one of the concerns with timelines.
Let's work around that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this kind of goes back to just macroeconomic, looking into the future. Every one of these projects we enter into, something comes up, like box culvert over, hey, we got grant money for the bicycle boulevard, and it's gonna help pay for drainage issues. And then we find a concrete box culvert that needs to be replaced, there's an extra $500,000 we didn't expect. So all of these projects with all this aging infrastructure, it's almost like we need to plan on having an extra 20% sitting there ready to go, just in case. And I say that as the next 10, 20 years, these are gonna be constant, we're gonna constantly have this stuff.
John, I couldn't agree with you more. I drive around the city and there's not one water break within 3 blocks. There's 3 all of a sudden. And it concerns me, not even knowing anything about water break, that, we may have bigger problems than the C Bridge.
Well, I'm just saying, as we budget year after year after year, it's almost as though we need to just make sure whatever we're, hey, our lowest bid to fix all the Woody Seat Bridge stuff is $5 million. We might want to say, we might want to make sure we have an extra $1 million in reserves just in case something comes up, because we're uncovering a lot of stuff as we go.
For projects
And-
of that magnitude, yeah, absolutely. That's a
Are
huge.
we still doing everything we can to get grants? I look at this and I think, gosh, could we have worked with the county to extend that over C Street, for that? I mean, we did work over C Street, but not the right work.
And partnering with the county with the grant that was given was a big win.
And there was some C-clip money.
I just hope we're still trying to get some help for this road that was gifted to the city.
Correct.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I'm gonna be stating the obvious, but we were all just as surprised by that as well.
Yeah.
So I found out while I was out that, hey, by the way, this came up. So it is unfortunate, but we are gonna be getting better at how we prioritize our projects, how we look at projects, how we analyze our projects for sure. All of us were surprised.
When we looked at, this is 2.5 years ago, when we were having all the discussions in regards to how we were gonna do Woody Seat, one of the biggest topics was getting rid of bridges, and that was one of the big pushes. One of the big reasons, among many, about getting rid of that Avenue A bridge if possible, was because every single one of these bridges we have is a huge maintenance cost. We have a lot of bridges. Between railroads and rivers and creeks, we have a lot of bridges.
Miss Grace, answer me a question here, okay? Now, in the beginning of this whole project on the Woody Seat Freeway, we was gonna come in here and they was gonna resurface the bridge on top, which we did already, kind of put some blacktop on it, so we can get the cars over for now, right? Just to mean, I guess what I'm missing is, I thought we're supposed to knock them down, not put a new system. Why are we have to put a new thing in if we're knocking it
Median.
down? In the median, if we're knocking it down?
C Bridge is not getting
Okay.
knocked down.
It was determined originally that it met standards,
Yeah.
and now
So-
we're saying it no longer meets structural standards.
And to be honest with you, phase 1 and phase 2 predated me.
No, right.
Yeah,
this
and
is
I
true.
don't have any intel as to what went into that.
The Avenue C Bridge was gonna be the least,
Right.
the least amount of work done on that bridge. It was get across the river, get it to where we could access Avenue F for people crossing from South Hutchinson to Hutch or otherwise. And that was your phase 1, basically.
Okay.
Phase 2 was gonna be basically Avenue A through where we stopped. And phase 2, when we started, phase 2 was the one that was, let's have a lot of community meetings to discuss, because it was gonna be that Avenue A and Avenue B,
Circle.
that situation.
And we talked about just getting rid of the Woody Seat.
Yeah.
Ending it at E, but that was a decision based on, hey, C Street's fine, it gets us over the railroad tracks, let's slope it down, let's have a roundabout. That's what everybody in the room decided based on the information we had at that time.
Plus, I think the railroad would not allow us to do away with that bridge.
Maybe not, I mean.
That's-
I think
what-
they reached out to the railroad.
That I went back and watched that meeting, I don't know, just recently, and that's something that stood out to me was it you who presented?
No.
There was somebody else who presented. Said that the railroad would not allow an extra 10,000 cars a day to be going over the railroad tracks because
that
that's
crossing.
going to delay one or the other.
We also had the emergency services aspect of it too, and
Yeah.
access around that
I
area, because
understand.
even with it closed, it's
To
rough.
your point, John, with the bridges that have been assessed, that one didn't even rise up to the need. I mean, we're on since I've been here, we're on our 3rd bridge that we're fixing, and C Street wasn't even on top of the
We've
list.
got a street that we've closed a bridge because there's not enough traffic to
Yep.
justify it. We've
Yep.
changed, I think, some things to different types of culvert
Mhm.
options rather than having a bridge. So, yeah, I mean, the bridges are a huge cost.
Yeah.
And it's just,
And we have determined over the last couple of weeks that we have to do this now, or is this
So-
20 years? Do we get 20 more years out of this? Or does this make financial sense to go ahead and do this now? I think that's a fair question.
That's a question that I'm ill-equipped to answer.
Brian told me a little bit about this, and it's, in his mind, it's best to do it all at once, close Woody Seat versus having to close Woody Seat to do the roundabout, and then a year or two later, close it completely again, because he had asked, I don't know if it was JEO, I really can't remember, I apologize, but he had asked, like, what does it mean if we allow one lane open while we fix Avenue C? And they said that that delays the entire project like 4 months.
Increase the
Approximately,
cost.
I can't remember exactly, and that's gonna increase your costs.
Can we do this?
So-
Can we find out K&O, get a discussion going?
Yeah.
Can we have, Brian or someone give a presentation? At
Yep.
Early August or second meeting in August, before we get into, September 3rd, so we have a better understanding and we can educate the public a little bit more on what's going on, because the Woody Seat Bridge stuff is high profile.
And
communicating
it
with
is,
the public.
there's,
This
everybody's
is gonna
watching
raise a
it.
lot of, questions.
And that's Brian's in the little bit talking to him is you're going to be doing the work. You haven't put the bid out for phase 2. You need to look at this and consider putting it all at the same time.
I would like to hear that
Yeah.
in a public.
Yep.
I mean, I know we're public, but this is a study session.
Sure.
I'd like to hear that at a regular council meeting and discuss it. Council.
Yep, that's appropriate.
Okay, so we don't make a decision on this right yet.
We don't have to.
No, but this is helpful.
Well, you commissioners, just like me, people are out there and seeing us fixing the bridges, and why we putting money in, that's the biggest problem I got. They go, why are we fixing this, we're gonna tear it down?
Well, I'm thinking the same thing, Steve. I drive over, C Street's got new guardrails on it, you know, it's got new overlay, and then, oh, by the way, we got it.
Let's get more information that we can
Yep.
communicate with people.
Yep, exactly.
More intelligently on our end.
Yeah, I feel like there's gonna be some moving pieces until September 3rd, but,
We
These are the
understand,
this'll get you up to date on what
we
we're looking at
understand
right
you're,
now.
you're just the messenger and you're just reporting a number that you were told, so.
So I'll just ask the question, is that atrium number, is that pretty spot on, or can that vary $200,000 or $300,000? I mean, since we're talking about, overages, I mean, cause that's something that we need to be like, well, that actually cost us 2 million instead of 1.5. I mean, just a question there too.
There could be some variation, but we feel comfortable with that number.
And I know the thing needs to
Yeah.
go, so I mean, it's not one,
Yeah.
we're just kind of, just a question.
Probably the biggest thing is just gonna be the abatement piece. But again, we feel pretty comfortable with that number.
I think timing is good first. If you get August session, get information about what you see, Avenue C bridge, and then you've got the 20th, you have the atrium discussion, and then I think at least you're gonna have the information.
I would like to give you a proposed budget. I apologize, because normally I would give you a hard copy of a proposed budget today, but with some of these changes lately, I've been working on that. I will have something posted probably by the end of the day on our website that you can evaluate.
Another question I have, Mr. Mayor, when we was back in the day, I realized I'm one of the older commissioners here, but I'm trying to remember, wasn't it an 80-20 split that this Kansas was gonna help us pay a grant for the Woody
The
You
Seat?
didn't
C-clip?
get that grant, the original one.
Okay.
The first half was a 60-40 split or a 50-50 split. We haven't got any idea what kind of help we're gonna get on the next phase.
There was the grant that we applied, the C-clip grant we did not get.
The one from back when,
Yeah,
we're applying
There
again.
was one
Yeah.
about 3 years ago. We can
Right.
we can talk about that. Yeah, there's history on what.
No, I understand that whole, I know that story, but what about moving forward? Is it all on us now?
We applied for what engineering said, did apply for a C-clip grant that we did not receive for the phase 2 of Woody Seat.
For the current phase 2?
Yes.
Okay,
So at this point, all we know is we're fully funded it, at this point.
that's,
Yes.
There is supposed to be around 600,000
Oh.
of ARPA money used on phase 2.
That's right.
Which is a concern because there's a timeline as to has to be utilized by, ergo the railroad challenge. So we have to make sure that money is utilized and spent prior to the deadline of the ARPA if this should get pushed back because railroad ties our hands a little.
So what part is phase 2? What?
That's the roundabout.
Okay, that's it. So what's the estimated cost of
Where were we at? That was, we had some budget numbers,
It was gonna be 6 or 8 million last I remember.
Maybe it'll be helpful for Brian to just give a full overview of
Yeah.
that project. Rather than trying to guesstimate those numbers now.
hitting us with logic from left field over there.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else today? Do we need to give Angela any more direction right now? Or are we gonna revisit this at the next study session? I assume after we know more. I mean, I would task staff with trying to figure out downtown, you know, what that would look like if we pulled that in-house. I'm okay either way. I know it's a, with every decision, might be an unintended consequence, and maybe city staff could discuss that in their staff meeting and try to figure out what that looks like. Is that fair? You know, as far as Hutchinson funding, you know, not sure where I'm at on that. I'll have to ponder that. I'm just speaking.
No, I agree. I think that right now, when it comes to the chamber request specifically, I want to know what's going to work best for the city moving forward in the next, let's just say 2 years, because in 2 years we have the landmark should be up and running. Supposedly, like I think that fits with when they think they'll be giving their first keys. So, you know, is the biggest help to supporting the downtown master plan and to supporting the city's initiatives, is that going to be through the more technical person coming in-house? Is that going to be through a grant and marketing role, which I feel is what the chamber has provided? And I know that they are doing technical as well, but you know, what does that look like for us, and how can we basically make sure that we don't miss the mark with the downtown plan? I don't want to say yet again, but it kind of feels like it needs to be said, because I know that there has been downtown plans and there has been downtown projects, and some of the stuff has come to fruition, some of it hasn't. And how can we make sure that we follow through with what we say?
And I think the 3 people or 4 in this room from staff that would be the people in the room trying to figure that out. So that would be my direction. Yes, John?
I was counting how many staff people would not be included in that helpful.
Just
There's only 4 that help
you're
out
welcome
with
to
it.
participate. Paul?
Well, and if the role does come back, is it a person or is it a title? Because
No,
I don't
exactly.
think that the way that the Kansas Main Street thing is worded, I don't think that it says it has to be a person who does that and that is their only duty. I think it's simply a person who is full-time who does this.
Assigned to that.
But
You can look at the downtown master plan as it stands, and
yeah,
it will be impossible to find a person who can cover all of the skills required to implement a downtown master plan: marketing, placemaking, infrastructure, planning and zoning, and so
Policy.
yeah. So luckily we have great committees that are working on those initiatives, but it does require some expertise, at least on a high level. And so I don't know that we have an answer for you today.
All right. Does city staff have some direction at least? I appreciate your suggestion, John, on getting Brian back in the room. So about that.
It's gonna be high profile with a lot of the community.
Yes.
I have a question for Justin. If we go with option A and we delay the turf phases by 1 year, so then that we have, I can't remember which one comes first, but then essentially we're done installing turf in 2027. How does that, and you don't have to respond right now, but how does that tie in with some of the other projects that I know have been on the CIP that have been pushed off or that sort of thing. So what's the shuffling?
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that right off the top of my head, but there would be a little bit of shuffling, of projects getting, just that domino effect, so. The other thing to look at that too is whether it's a pro or a con. By delaying the installation, it may put us in a better position when that turf has to be replaced. Say, we talked earlier, 12, 15 years, that allows us to do a phased reinstallation of it. So just maybe not. I mean, a lot of it depends on how much play lots of things go to. Ideally, one thing I was looking at, and Angela, I don't know if that's officially giving me the okay to try to do this, but if we were to keep fields 1 and 4, which would be the next phase at Fun Valley, if we're able to keep that in 2025, could that work actually happen like in January of 2025? And so really going into the 2025 baseball softball season, you actually have 4 fields at Fun Valley. There's a lot of moving parts. There's something we're exploring. So obviously we'd lose that opportunity. The reason I was hoping to do that is we'd have one less mobilization. Consider it's a lot of big equipment to get here to get a field installed. So just an opportunity I was looking into. Obviously that goes away if it gets kicked down the road. But there will be downstream, and not just for parks. It'll be everybody will have to come get shelters.
But whatever we do, however, better would be done first. Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or can we adjourn? Okay. All right. See you next time.